We've got a Substack. If you love the Soul Boom podcast, you're going to want to get our weekly newsletter Substack sent to your inbox. A lot of them delve into the ideas around the podcasts that we're doing that week. So sign up, please subscribe. Go to soulboom.substack.com. Thank you. You have a quote that says, podcasts are the death of civilization. Podcasts are the death of civilization. I was like, will you do my podcast? She's like, I hate podcasts.
I will do podcasts if it's with someone more famous than me. That's
crazy.
No,
You're way more famous than me anyway.
No, that's totally not true.
I'm on more coffee mugs at Target than you are, but you're more famous than me.
No, that is completely not true. You're a legend. This is different, okay? Because you're accomplished artist.
You're not allowed to look at this camera again.
You're an accomplished actor, and I didn't move to America to do podcasts. I moved to America to meet my comedy heroes, to do stand-up comedy, to 50 people in a room for $20.
You're still looking at the camera. What is...
Yeah, it's just 9 years of 9 years of training.
Hey there, it's me, Rainn Wilson, and I want to dig into the human experience. I want to have conversations about a spiritual revolution. Let's get deep with our favorite thinkers, friends, and entertainers about life, meaning, and idiocy. Welcome to the Soul Boom podcast. One of the things I love about your comedy and your work, and, you know, obviously we know your work from The Daily Show, which is a big, giant kind of forum for a cultural criticism of America, certain segments of American culture. But you do that throughout your comedy, you know, growing up in Malaysia and Singapore, and then Australia, you're such a citizen of the world.
Oh.
Are you an American citizen?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not, yeah.
Why do they let you stay here?
Don't let them know. I'm still here.
But you are uniquely positioned to have a certain perspective on the United States that shows through in your comedy. Bottom line, give me your best American cultural criticism from your international standpoint.
I mean, I don't think I'm an expert in anything. I don't think just because I lived in multiple countries means that I know better than anybody. My perspective on America was that I really wanted to come here. I've been trying to come here for a long time, back here for a long time. To do comedy.
You love Seinfeld. You love American.
I love Bill Burr.
Comedy.
I love The Office. I love these. You know, meeting you in here right now is actually kind of like a low key dream come true right now. It's pretty crazy.
That's nuts.
Everyone.
You've been in a Marvel movie. They won't even audition me for Marvel movies.
Yeah, so. I got a very small role, and it helps if you have no minimum no
quote.
No quote.
Yeah.
You can get. You'd be amazed how many things you can get into if you have no quote. Because my perspective was I always wanted to come here. And when I'm here, I always feel like I'm a guest and I'm grateful for all the things that happen. So when I'm here, my criticism is never like fuck this place is awful. My criticism is always comes from like, oh, I came here because I thought America was this, and I can see it, and it's not there sometimes. And I'm like, it could be that.
Yeah. But this is an interesting argument because if you criticize America, people are like, well, if you don't like it, get out. It's like, well, no, I also criticize my wife. And it doesn't mean I want to get a divorce. It's just like, I want our marriage to be better. Yes. And I want to urge her to be better. And she wants to urge me to be a better person.
Yes.
So can we criticize in a way to kind of like culturally urge things to evolve and move forward? I mean, the United States is based on e pluribus unum. We've never really known e pluribus unum, out of many one. But that is an ideal to strive for. I think in a lot of ways we're getting a lot better. So let's try and make even more e pluribus unums.
Yeah, no, I agree. How do we take the best things from around the world and do them here is really the bottom line. That's really what it is, you know, because I grew up in Singapore and I went to law school in Australia. I lived there for 10 years. I've seen this. They don't even call it socialism over there. They just call it, that's just how the government should work, which is where education is free, healthcare is free. In Singapore, it's a very capitalist country by, I think, any measure, but their healthcare system works. They kind of force you to save for your own healthcare by making you save your own salary. A portion of your salary every month goes to your own Medicare savings, and then the government.
Kind of like ours does for Social Security.
Yeah, right. And so
theoretically.
And then you go to like Japan and they have bullet trains, and then you're also like, well, why
can't we have bullet trains?
Yeah, why can't we have bullet trains? Why can't we have better healthcare system? Why can't we have?
But isn't that part of our toxic political system? I always come back to our partisan, because trains are like a lefty thing because they're good for the environment and it's public infrastructure. Yeah. So then the political right is like, fuck trains. We want more trucks and highways and oil.
Yeah.
And then the left is like, fuck trucks and highways and oil. We want trains. Yeah. It's like, can't we all get along and have trucks and oil and highways and really fast, effective trains?
Yeah,
But the oil lobby is also very powerful in the right wing, and they will actively work to subvert any large mass transit projects.
Yeah, and it's really sad. And I do wish people could see that. I think sometimes America does a lot of things right. Innovation here is very strong. Mm-hmm. Show business is very strong here. And so combine those two ideas, if they could sell some innovation better, that, you know, to the whole country, that would probably be a better thing. Mm-hmm. But I think sometimes Americans don't look enough to, or know enough to look at other countries and see these good ideas. Yeah. Because if you've never been on a bullet train, you wouldn't even know what the hell that is. You've never even seen it. You never know how easy that could make life for people. You're like, I don't care about that, you know?
Right.
If you've never been able to go to a hospital and not worry about becoming bankrupt, you don't know what that feels like.
Well, I remember years ago, 10 or 12 years ago, eating dinner in Canada, and I was like, can I get the check? And they're like, and they took care of it at the table with a little like remote charge thing. And I was like and I didn't have to go up and stand in line and wait at the cashier.
Right. And then I was like paperwork that you have to
it blew my mind. I just went like this and like, and I was like, why don't we have this in the United States? And finally it came.
Yeah.
The Canadians were onto this good 10, 15 years before us.
Australia was onto that before.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So it's interesting sometimes. I think
Michael Moore had a documentary called What Country Should We Invade Next? That was literally, I'm not kidding you. This was about this exact thing. He went around the world looking at healthcare, education, other kinds of social innovations and said, you know, what can we take from other countries? What can we learn from other countries? But again, that takes humility. And because it was Michael Moore, who's a leftist, then like, everyone was like, oh, fuck him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think because sometimes we Americans are like, America's the best. And when you have that mindset, sometimes you refuse to look outside, right? Because if you're the best, why would you look outside? Mm-hmm. But one of the superpowers of America is the immigration. Because imagine having such good marketing for your country, America, that the best of every other country wants to come here. You know, and that's like a superpower. And I know that sounds super wokey, left, whatever, but I just mean that as a fact. Like all the innovation in America, it's all immigrants coming here who had a chip on their shoulder or they had adverse circumstances. So when they come to America, it's like, this is almost like on easy mode, life on easy mode, and they just innovate, you know?
And you talk about, you know, entrepreneurship and innovation, and I do think that that's true in the United States. There is kind of a thing of like, hey, if you can change the world and you can come up with an invention and you can do anything you set your mind to.
A lot of hubris, but yes.
Yeah, a lot of arrogance, but and I had a friend from Australia and he talked about this thing called the tall poppy syndrome.
Yes,
maybe you know this, where in some places in the world, like if you stick out and say, I want to start this business and I also want to do that. Yes, I trained as a doctor, but they're like, hey, go slow down now.
Like,
stay in your lane. Just like settle down. Just do your thing that you were trained for and don't do anything extra. And so the societal pressure to keep to limit, stifle innovation. Did you feel that?
Yeah.
In Australia?
A little bit in Australia. Yeah. I mean, that's you just kind of perfectly described it. I mean,
thank you. That's why I have a podcast.
One in Australia, it's they love people who win without trying. In Australia, you got to win, but you can't look like you tried too hard. So I'm not sure if you remember, I can't remember his name, but there was this Australian winter ice skater, Olympic ice skater. Okay. And he won the Olympic gold medal for speed skating.
Because of the other people fell down?
Everyone else fell down. He was like last. Everyone else fell and then he won. And that dude was he was like the Australian champion. This dude's like the best. Even Crocodile Dundee. This dude, what was his name again? Paul Hogan?
Paul Hogan,
Yeah, he was a guy
you
working
call
on
that a knife?
Yeah.
This is a knife.
One of the all-time legendary comedians in Australia, all-time, not stand-up, but comedic, great comedic force as an actor. Most popular movie of all time, probably Australia.
Handsome dude.
Handsome
dude. Tiny and handsome.
He was just some dude working on a bridge in Sydney. He was hammering the bridge. One day, a newscaster interviewed him about the bridge, and he was just really funny on camera. He was like, "Oh yeah, it's a bridge, we're trying to build it." And they were like, "This guy's so funny. We got to put him in movies." And he was like, "Okay, well, and the whole time he was like, okay, well, I'm not really an actor, but I'll do this movie." And he just kept killing it all the way up. He just kept like not trying and winning. So in Australia, they love that. And in Australia, conversely, if you're like, hey, I want to if
you show your ambition. If you have raw ambition,
they're like, shut the fuck up and get, they hate it.
You can swear on this.
Yeah. they hate it. Whereas in America, it's I think the best way I can show it is the difference in networking. I don't know how you feel, how true this is, so maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like in America, if you meet someone for coffee, let's say I ask you out for coffee, can you please, I need some guidance on this. I would love it. I would appreciate so much if you can meet for coffee. We met for coffee. And if in this coffee session, if at the end of it, I don't ask you for anything, like I don't ask you, there's no ask. I just wanted to meet you and get some advice and all that. And I don't ask you for anything concrete. In America, it's almost like, well, why did you fucking ask me to meet up? Like, why are you wasting my time? Like, if you don't want anything from me, what are we doing? Like, what can I do? You want me to write a reference letter for you? Do you want me to email someone?
Okay, all right.
But if you ask me for nothing, it's like, why did you waste my fucking time? Whereas in like Australia and I think fair to say Asia, it's like if we meet up for coffee and I ask you for something like, can you please introduce me to this producer? That's like rude.
That's rude, forward.
Yeah, it's very forward because it's like we don't even know each other. I'm already asking. This is a big ask for you to put your neck on the line for me. But in America, it's like, well, if you don't want me, then you're wasting my time right now. Like, hurry up, let's.
Can you introduce me to Marvel?
Yeah, I don't think you need me to do that, but
they ain't calling. My phone's pretty silent. Where did your funny bones come from? Because people don't think Singapore, Malaysia funny, but not that I would know. I know noodles, because I've been in the Singapore airport and they have all these noodle stands everywhere. Yeah. That's all I know about Singapore.
I think you will like Singapore. It's almost like Wakanda. Singapore is like first world country. Everything's super advanced. Everything is efficient. It makes sense. It's super hot there. I can agree with you. Not necessarily a hotbed for comedy. Yeah. Western style comedy. Although there's some really great Singaporean stand-up comics. Please check them out. Jason Leong, etc. But I don't know where it came from. I don't even know if I have funny bones, to be honest. I'm still part of the reason I started doing stand-up was to test whether I had any funny bones.
Oh, come on.
No, I truly don't even. Sometimes I'm with you guys. I'm with like
you do for real. I mean, come on. Part of it is like in your stand-up too. Like you're unafraid of looking ridiculous. Like you do a lot of silly physical. People don't give you enough. Props for the physical stuff that you do.
Thanks. Yeah.
And you make yourself look ridiculous.
I feel like that comes from my dad a bit. He was very physical. He's always like the life of the party. In family reunions, he would be making jokes and like roasting people and all that.
But how do you get the funny? You didn't come from that same petri dish because you were a fucking lawyer.
Right.
You're like a straight A student and you were a lawyer in...
Yeah,
you have a law degree. You have a law degree.
Yeah,
which does you no good in the United States, but in Australia, you could totally sue me.
In Australia, I could be a high court judge, but here, I really don't know. I wasn't a good student, to be clear. I wasn't straight A at all. I scraped into law school, and then in law school I was a bad student. My wife will attest. She was a much better student than me. I met her in law school in Australia. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know where. I don't even know if I don't know if I have funny bones. Like I said, I was just trying to.
When did people start telling you that you were?
No
funny?
one ever told me that. I told them I was doing stand up. My friends were like, "You better not. It's gonna be terrible." They were like, "You better not do it. It's gonna suck." I was in my housemate. I was like, "Hey, I'm thinking of joining this comedy competition. He was like, "Oh, you better not do that, man." I would. If I were you, I wouldn't.
So you didn't have the people going like, "You should do it. You're so funny at a party. No. You should go do it in front of a microphone."
Opposite. You better not do it. It's gonna be so embarrassing.
So what drove you to do it? If everyone is telling you you're not funny, I can't imagine you got a lot of support from your parents to be like.
I didn't tell them. I didn't tell them. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't tell them I did.
All right. So you deceived your parents.
I deceived my parents. One of my superpowers, I think, is really not caring. I'm gonna go do what I want to do, and I'm okay being a loner. That's something, I don't know.
Okay.
I was okay.
Was it a certain kind of like I don't give a fuck kind of attitude?
Maybe.
In a way?
I mean, so the reason I started doing it was because I was watching stand-up comedy and I was loving it, and I was like, how come no one's talking about this? For like
right. So it's like something to. Like to write like you could write about.
Yeah. Like I was like, no one's talking about this experience, whether it was Asian or not Asian, right? It didn't have to be racial, but whether it was like, hey, no one's talking about this, like this perspective or this perspective. No one's doing it. Maybe I'll go do it, and I want to confirm whether this makes me laugh. I want other people. That's really what it was. That's really what it was just that. It wasn't any, and I was in Australia, I didn't even know, there was no hope of going on the Tonight Show. That wasn't even a goal. You know what I mean? It was just like, hey, I wonder if this will make people laugh. It was really just, there was something very pure and very artsy about it that, again, which also contrasted to the incredibly corporate world I was in, that very kind of hierarchy, money-driven, get an interview, this is a successful, you get into a law firm, this is what success means, versus this weird gypsy world that, it was the circus, and coming from Singapore, that's so foreign.
So what's your first joke?
My first joke.
What's your first routine? What's your first area of a topic? Like here's one area of topic. Like I always wanted to talk about. I'm not a stand-up, but Native American dream catchers hanging from people's rear view windows, rear view mirrors. Yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
If you drive around, especially the Southwest, they're called dream catchers. They're a sacred object from Navajo and Hopi and stuff like that. And people will have them hanging from their rear view mirrors. Yeah. And like the thought process of like some 60-year-old white dude to like, I'm going to hang a dream catcher from my car. I don't know how I would make jokes about it, but to me, it's so ludicrous. Right. I've never heard a stand-up talk about dream catchers.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like, what's the goal here? That if you fall asleep at the wheel,
is it going to catch your dream?
Is it going to catch your nightmares in case you? I know that is really funny. By the way, Native American culture underrated. We need more of that. We could use more Native American culture in all aspects.
Agreed. Here.
Yeah. The topics I was talking about were kind of being an Asian guy in a Western society, Australia. I was making some dirty sex jokes about my sister.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Wait, I'm sorry. What?
That came out worse than it sounded. I think it was a misdirect. I think my first joke was something like, I met my sister. We accidentally played footsie under the table and I won. Or something like that. Whatever.
Okay.
I met my sister for dinner and then we were playing footsie and I won or something. And then it was some joke about.
That's a terrible joke.
Okay, I'm sorry. It was my first job. Yeah. Okay.
You really shouldn't do comedy.
I'm butchering my own set. You know what's weird? I actually have a video of my very, very first set.
Your very, very first one?
Yeah, I got a video of it, yeah. And it went a lot better than what I just did. I actually won the competition. And that's what kept me going, actually.
Oh, okay. So you went in and you won. That's amazing.
I was pretty decent at that first gig. And then that was in a very controlled environment at my college. But granted, it was still strangers, but it was my own college. It felt kind of safe. And then that made me go and do it to strangers. And the whole time I was like, I actually don't want my friends to see this because I don't want to be a comic who can only perform to family and friends.
So did you sneak out to like local Chuckles Comedy Club in Melbourne or something?
In Australia, in Melbourne, it was Comedy Room. So we only had like one comedy club that was pretty hard to get into. So I was doing like bar shows, and loving it. It was so... Like I said, Singapore is very straight and narrow, and there's certain career paths you take. Especially, I was in Australia to go to law school, presumably I'll go back to Singapore to become a lawyer, And so for me to experience this world where people didn't care about money, or at least they seemed like they didn't care about money, and it's like artists. It was pure artists, and that was a very foreign
drunk
word
artists,
to me.
but
drunk artists, and it was very bohemian, and I was meeting these Australians, and it's a world which despite living in Australia, I never really got to, because I never got to experience that world because I was in that international student university. When I met Australians, they were the type A personality, trying to become an investment banker Australians.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't meet the smoking, just people drinking themselves to death. Australia. I didn't get to make friends with those people until I started doing comedy.
Yeah.
It was
the fun-loving alcoholic set.
Yeah. And I don't know. I'm always trying to like get away from the main culture. So I think maybe that was my way of rebelling against the world I was in.
Why were you trying to rebel against the main culture?
I don't know. I just, something in me. I was always trying to like, I didn't need or want to be part of whatever everyone else was doing. I could just go do my own thing and very happily. I was always like that. So, maybe it was me trying to be cool. I was trying to be cooler than everyone else. And so I went to go do this, but I didn't make a big deal about it because I didn't want friends to come watch me because I wanted to perform to strangers. I wanted a pure test of whether or not I could make strangers laugh.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell my parents, and I just kept doing it. I didn't make a big deal about it.
When did your parents find out? Like, oh my God,
my
son has... But he's been...
I'm hoping they don't watch this podcast. They honestly, they found out like when I was doing theaters in Australia. It made the news. In Singapore when I was so it was long along the way.
So it was a year or two in.
Yeah, maybe 3 or 4 years.
How long were you deceiving and lying to your poor parents about your comedy, your secret comedy career?
To be fair, I didn't lie. I never told them. I didn't say I wasn't.
It's a lie of omission.
A lie of omission was but as a lawyer, a lie of omissions are not lies. And I didn't tell them, and they found out. And they weren't as brutal as I thought they would be. They want. My mom actually wasn't discouraging. My dad said that no white person will ever buy a ticket.
Hey everybody, it's me. I've talked about it a lot, but I have gone through a lot in my life, and there have been times when I have been looking for a little clarity. So I want to share something really special and cool, and it's an app. It's called Waking Up. It's founded by the great Sam Harris. You know Sam Harris. He's also a neuroscientist, and Waking Up is an incredible arsenal of mindfulness. It's filled with meditations, quotes, authors, interactive resources. It's all grounded in secular techniques, and it has approaches baked into it that actually work. I really can't recommend it more highly. Soul Boom listeners get your first month for free, plus you'll save $30 on the in-app price if you go to wakingup.com/soulboom. You can start your free month today. That's wakingup.com/soulboom to get a free month plus $30 off. I hope you'll check it out.
To watch you, yeah. He said that, yeah. He said it to me. But, I get where he was coming from.
Where was he coming from with saying that?
He was worried. He was worried. He was worried. He was
worried
scared
that you would get your hopes up and they'd get dashed. That the ultimate kind of racism of white people that didn't want to watch a Malaysian stand-up comic, or
I won't put racism onto that. I think because my dad went to college in America and he left. He graduated and he went back to Malaysia because he knew there was a cultural ceiling for him, and he was worried that I would hit the same cultural ceiling, that they would never listen to you. They would never want to listen to you. They would never want to support you. They would never think you were good. They would never give you, So, I think he came around. He passed away about a couple of years ago, but I think he silently came around. Too.
Yeah, so we, in doing research for this, we lost our fathers around the same time.
Oh, eh? Oh,
yeah. Mine was early 2020, yours was 2019, is that right?
Oh, yeah, 2018. Oh, so I thought you meant same time in life, but same time in calendar time, yes.
Around the same year, we both lost our fathers.
Yeah.
What was that like for you? What kind of role did he play in his life? What was that?
He was a pretty strict guy. Pretty tough dude. Could be tough to get along with.
What was his career?
He became like a corporate guy, but he was always a businessman. And like a self-made business entrepreneur guy, but he was like the smartest guy in his family academically, but he didn't go to college. He just started his own business in Malaysia, and it was going pretty well. And then it went under, and then he reinvented himself by getting his college education in America. Then he went back and became a corporate executive. So he restarted his life out of circumstances like. He wasn't like, he didn't gamble, he didn't drink, he wasn't like, he had no vices really, he just had a bad temper. That's where his biggest vice. But he remade his life a few times due to, when you're doing business, sometimes it just doesn't work out. It's not because you are bad at business, doesn't matter, doesn't mean that you were dishonest or in any way. It's just it didn't work out. But he was so self-made, he would restart his life every single time. And when he passed away, I was at his funeral, like family members would come. So his nephews and nieces, my cousins and my aunts and uncles, everyone would have these stories. I didn't even know that he was so respected because he was the guy who, in his village in Malaysia, he would see his nephews and nieces, whom he wasn't even particularly close to. They were just by blood related. He would see them graduate from high school, and he could already see that they would be stuck in this village and never leave due to just laziness or whatever, inertia, lack of inertia. He would grab them by the hand and bring them to the big city and say, okay, go study accounting, go become an accountant. And they would tell me these stories and it sounded like him. I just never knew that. I never knew specifically, but when they told me these stories, that sounds like him. He would take you by the hand and literally put them in a car to go to Kuala Lumpur, go study accounting and become an accountant so that you would have a better life. And so he was that dude.
So pretty generous, but strong-willed.
Yes, very generous and very caring in that really weird, strict way, like, super caring guy. Yeah. But in that like yell at you to make you better. And, he was right. Most of the time he was right. So
yeah. How did he die?
He was on his farm. He was farming and then he passed away on his farm. Just very unexpectedly. Wow. Very unexpectedly, no warning. He just left. I'll talk about this in the special.
How
I'm just trying to get people to watch this special.
Yeah, let's promote. What's the name of your special?
No, it's
not out. You're developing material for a new special.
Yeah. I'm on tour right now.
What's it called?
It's the Love to Hate It tour. Love to Hate It tour.
Love to Hate It.
Yeah, come watch it.
But what was that like? What was that like for you when you lost him?
Oh, it was so sudden. It was horrible. It was so sudden.
Were you close or? Yeah, it was a complicated relationship.
We weren't best friends, but we weren't enemies, and we were talking, and a lot of mutual respect. We were kind of very different people. I think everyone says we're the same person, but I feel we're different. But maybe we couldn't be best friends because we were too similar. Maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
And when he left, it was so sudden. It truly was. I got a phone call from my brother-in-law, and he was like, "Oh, he left. He's gone." And it was like I was gonna see him the next day.
Wow.
Yeah. And my last text message to him was like, he was asking me about drones. He was gonna buy a drone for his farm, and he was like, "What do you think about buying this drone?" And I was like, "I don't know. It just seems like it takes skill to pilot those drones." And then you had to go back home and like I had to go back and like handle his estate. Which is always weird because when people pass away unexpectedly, their estate is up to other people to handle.
Yeah.
And so you have to go through their life. You're forced to kind of go through their life to handle that. So that was intense. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was really intense. So luckily my wife was with me, my sister, my brother-in-law, my mom, we were all like going through the stuff and trying to figure out. And he left. The universe is very weird. When we got to his the house in Malaysia, he had left like stacks of paper on his kitchen table, and it was all his business affairs. It was just stacks of paper right there, And I mean, part of it is because he's an old school guy. He printed out everything, so it wasn't like he didn't expect to leave. But it's part of it was like, man, it's kind of weird that all this.
Was
stuff
it a heart or a stroke thing or what?
It was a farming accident. Yeah, it was rough.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it was rough. And he also, before he left, for some reason, he wrapped up all his bank debt. Like it's very bizarre. My mom can't explain it. Like, yeah. Again, I'm not implying at all that he knew he was gonna go. Yeah. It's just the universe is weird. He kind of wrapped everything up, and I went through his I went through his laptop, and I talk about this in the show, me having to hack into his laptop and go through his emails and his messages to me.
Any weird porn there? Or
No,
like
I talk about this in the show too. No,
were you terrified of like, oh, please don't have like a foot fetish, Dad?
Yes, yeah, that's exactly what it was. Yeah, I had to go through his stuff just to see, and no porn. I couldn't believe it.
That's
no
great.
Porn. Yeah,
that's
what a stand-up guy.
Yeah,
turn on auto delete on your history.
Yeah,
everyone listening. So yeah, that was rough. I mean, I don't know. Did you expect your father?
No, he was getting quadruple bypass surgery, my dad, but that has like a 95% success rate, 97 success rate.
Yeah, it's rough.
So 12 hours on the operating table, and they couldn't find enough decent artery anywhere in his body to put into his heart.
Right.
Because it all decayed. He had such bad arterial sclerosis and decay.
And no donors, no donor arteries.
Right? I didn't know if that was even an option, but it was a scary time because we knew he was going under but I remember him having surgery, and I went to Target and I bought some stuff that I needed, and I was like, I went to like this looking for a thing. I have this dental appliance I wear when I sleep, and I was looking for a piece of rubber that would work in it, that would fix it. And I was in Wenatchee, Washington, blah, blah, blah. And then we went and played pickleball. He's getting surgery, and we played pickleball because we're like, we're going to get the call. He's going to come out of post-op. We're going to go see him. And then it's like, we got to call like complications. We got to call, it's not looking good. And then by the afternoon, we were just like, oh my God.
Oh man, yeah, that's rough.
But part of Soul Boom, I have a chapter called Death and How to Live It. And there's a big section there about what preparing my father's body for death kind of felt like, where I realized on a kind of a deep aha moment that his body was simply a vessel for his life force that carried him, and that when we kind of washed and prepared his body for burial, it was this profound kind of realization of like, oh, he's not dead. This vessel that was carrying him is lying here, but whatever his spirit consciousness is, soul, whatever you want to call it, is somewhere else. I didn't feel like, oh, it's up in heaven or something like that, but there's some other kind of journey that it's taken. And it would really kind of rung this bell of like, and I talk about it a lot on the show, and I talk a lot about it in the book, but that we are spiritual beings. We have a limited amount of time in these meat suits. Yeah. And then we continue the journey. Sure. Now, did you have anything along those lines, or are you kind of like, it's when we die, lights out, we're worm food?
I try to suppress spirituality as a man of science, but man, some weird stuff was happening for sure.
Like what?
Like when he left, I had to, and I had shows in Boston about 2 months later at the Wilbur. And I went to go do these shows in Boston. And the backstory is that when I was a kid, we were born in Malaysia. And like I said, my dad went to America for college, but he went late in life when he had 2 kids. When he went to college, he brought me and my sister, my mom, and we were in Manchester, New Hampshire. And we would go to Boston. That was our local Chinatown. And so I went to Boston to perform at Wilbur, and it was kind of like a homecoming a little bit in Boston. And I was feeling a certain way, because I was feeling sad because it's Boston. It's my first show after my dad passed away. I'm performing in Boston, Universe. That's pretty weird. And I was doing the show, and I did the show, and I talked about it a little bit about how Boston was my hometown Chinatown. My dad just passed away. Everyone was like, oh, and then the show went well. And then I go home, and then the next 2 days later, my mom sends me a message from my uncle. So my mom's brother, not my dad's brother, my mom's brother. He says, out of nowhere, no one knows. I didn't tell them I was doing a show. My mom's brother had a dream that my dad came to him in the dream, and he said, hey, let's go to Boston. Ronnie's performing. Ronnie's there, not performing. He's like, Ronnie's in Boston. Let's go to Boston and go to Chinatown and let's go eat. And so they brought in the dream, my dad brought my uncle to Boston, and they went to a restaurant, a Chinese restaurant, and my dad was like, hey, let's order the lobster. Let's have lobster. And then my uncle told my dad that the price is very expensive. And my dad was like, okay, let's not eat here then. Then I was like, that's my dad. And then in the dream, my dad went to the market. He said, okay, let's buy lobster and bring it home to cook, which is so my dad. And then my uncle in the dream was like, yeah, okay, let's do that. And so my dad bought the lobster, and then he turned to my uncle and was like, oh, I don't know how to go home. You know how to go home? And then my uncle was like, oh yeah, that's what you do. He drew him a map. And then and my dad was like, in the dream was like, okay, thanks. Now I know how to go home. And that was like, what was that? You know what I mean? And my uncle didn't know I was performing in Boston. He didn't know. No one knew I was in Boston doing shows. He didn't know. In his dream, my dad came to him and said like, oh, let's go to Boston. Ronnie's in Boston. He didn't say performing. He said, I still have the voice message.
Yeah.
And then like another week later after that, my mom had a dream about my dad. And that was like, it was almost like my uncle like gave him a map to come and visit, and then, you know, so he could just say bye.
What was your mom's dream?
My mom's dream was that he was standing outside the house, and my mom was so mad at him for dying. She was yelling at him like, why did you go? What are you doing here? Like, how did you let this happen? And then my dad, he said in the dream, my dad was just staying outside like this. He left. And then my uncle said like, well, maybe if you don't yell at him, he'll come visit you more. And then my mom was like, if he visits me, I'm going to yell at him again for dying. And that's like, yeah.
Now, you said earlier, I'm a man of science, so I stay away from spirituality. Why would you say that science and spirituality are at odds?
Oh, here we go. Here comes
what?
Yeah, here comes the big fight now. No, I don't know.
There's no big fight.
Okay.
As Arthur Brooks says, we have to learn how to disagree better.
Yeah, I agree.
So, but do you see those two things as at odds? Because I don't see there being a discrepancy there necessarily. I mean, if you believe in like weird miracles, like God is shaped like an elephant, or you know, Jesus's body floated out of the crypt up into the sky, or something like that, then maybe you could say like, well, that defies science. But you know, I've been reading a ton about and listening to a ton on going down a YouTube wormhole about near-death experiences. Yeah. And it's fascinating all over the globe by the thousands, by the millions of like all of these things, like tunnel of light, dead relatives greeting them, seeing your life below, looking down at your body, seeing things that are actually happening to your body that you would have no way of knowing. Yeah. And science has when you talk to like, when you listen to the scientists try to describe, it's like, well, it's a hallucination caused by the blah, blah, blah. They don't know. Right. But the fact is, whether you're in Argentina or whether you're in Thailand, these near-death experiences happen. Why can't that be within the bounds of science? But tell me, what are your thoughts?
I prefer to be a rational humanist, you know? Okay. And I like that approach. I think that has the best benefit for most people. Yep. I think trying to get into spirituality, I think some people. Are you
saying I'm not a rational humanist?
No, not at all. I just think that there's some people who can't handle it and they take it to a very negative place. So, and because of that, I prefer to let's just keep it to what we can.
So do you think, people that are spiritual, but you're really talking about people that are religious, get very combative and judgmental of other people. So it's kind of like, you're going to go to hell if you don't believe in X, Y, Z.
Yeah. So I just don't like that vibe.
I don't like that vibe either. But are you sidestepping the whole metaphysical question of like, do we have a soul? Is your dad's journey continuing, or did it end when consciousness ended?
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I really don't know. I think the universe is weird. That's for sure. I've seen enough kind of weird energy, coincidences happen. And but all that stuff was stuff that made me happy, you know, all the weird energy in the universe I've ever seen. Yeah. You know, I was in, so to answer your question, I don't know. I prefer, I fall back on logic and reason, and, and that I like that to be my default position. If you can't prove it, you know, I that's my default position on stuff. At the same time, I've experienced, very positive, weird coincidences, and I'm very happy I did. And in the moment when I'm there, I don't try to rationalize it. I try to be like, oh, this is something very cool. I was in Hawaii filming a season, two seasons of a TV show. Man, I had such weird, spiritual things happen on Hawaii that helped me personally. It was very bizarre. I got two. One was there's an actor who I respect very much who was calling me, and he was asking me to be at the time part of his project. And I love this guy a lot. And senior Asian actor to me. I was in Hawaii at the time, and he just us making small talk. He was like, "Oh yeah, I was also in Hawaii," and he said like, when I was filming in Hawaii back 20 years ago, I wish I had a great time. I love Hawaii, but I wish I went with the flow more because I tried to bring mainland LA Hollywood energy to a Hawaii film set, and it just clashed. And in hindsight, I should have just been more with the locals in that environment. And I'm in Hawaii, be like Hawaii, and go with that kind of energy, whatever that means. Slower pace. Don't be so get things done. Yeah. So he was he thought he was in professional work mode, but really he was just bumping up against the energy of that place. Yeah. And he told me that, and I said,
island time kind of thing. Sure,
especially with film industry. Film industry in Hawaii. And so he told me that before my first day on set. And so I go to set, and I have like a 5 a.m. call time. I get to set. I'm in the car park for like 40 minutes because they haven't figured out the trailer situation yet. I tell the producer like, hey, I don't mind call times early, but like this was this was a very solvable situation.
They didn't even have the trailers set up, and you were already I was already called there before dawn.
Right. And I was there early, and I was irritated at that, but I'm not just saying this to make myself sound good. I'm not someone who carries that stuff to set anyway, because I'm on set. I think I believe I'm not, the set isn't here for me. I'm here for the set. So I didn't take that anger on set anyway. But then I remember what that guy said, and so meaning he told me something that was directly applicable, something that happened the next day to me, where I was like, oh yeah, just go with the flow. And what was weird about that, not just that coincidence, was that day I was in makeup, taking off my makeup with the makeup chair. And I happened to tell this story to her, and I don't mention the names. And she goes, oh yeah, it's this guy. And I was like, well, how did you know? How do you know who I was talking about? And she was like, oh, I worked on that project. And I could see why he would say that. And she wasn't talking shit about him. She just said, oh, I could see why he would tell you that. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, that is very weird. And that's only one of the weird things that happened in Hawaii. I don't know if that's spiritual, but that was like...
Well, coincidence, synchronicity, some people would call that spiritual. Yeah. But I just want to push back on the idea that because religion creates a lot of a judgment and maybe some vitriol and is in very embedded with American partisan politics, that you would then jettison spirituality. I say, we've thrown the spiritual baby out with the religious bathwater. Yes. So we threw the religion out, religion. But then we've also thrown maybe what's beautiful and pure about so much of the religious teachings.
Sure. Yeah. And I think, not to argue against myself, but I'm not saying, I'm not even a crazy jiu-jitsu proponent, but I think some of what people get from that is the spirituality that they're missing. Sometimes when you're doing that physical activity, it's the spirituality that you can't explain with science. It's just you're doing it, you learn something, you realize there's stuff you don't know, there's hidden things in between the lines that feel good. Yeah, I'm down. I'm down with meditation. I'm down with life lessons coming at an appropriate time, coincidences.
Yeah, where are you at with God?
Where am I with God? Probably not that, I'm like Buddhist. I'm like a bad Buddhist.
Okay.
Because love Buddha, love the teachings.
That'd be a good movie, Bad Buddhist. We've had like Bad Teacher and
Bad Buddhist. Yeah. Love Alan Watts. He's my guy.
Yeah.
Love all that stuff. If someone said, hey, we would get rid of all religion, but we also have to get rid of Buddhism, I'd be like, go for it. That's how I feel about religion. Yeah. I'd be like, no qualms. That's fine. Get rid of
because religion has been such a cause of disunity and judgment and chaos in the world. Yeah, I think it's totally understanding.
Yeah, and sometimes they come, they'll come and immediately walk off on the wrong foot because they'll start giving me premises. I just can't help but roll my eyes at, whatever their religious, like this happened, and I'm more like, damn, this, I can't even. I don't even want to argue because it's. I just have to let it go with religion because it's just not. I don't know. I don't like that vibe. I don't like that vibe. People coming and telling you stuff that happened that it sounds ridiculous, and you have to.
Right, but Ronnie, there are a whole series of questions that have nothing to do with that.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
So there is, like I said, judgment. There's like crazy, weird beliefs like Jesus' body floated into heaven or God comes in the shape of Ganesh, know. There's like beliefs that are obviously like how does that work in the world of science?
Yeah.
And I'm just picking those two. There could be beliefs like that from all kinds of different religions.
Sure.
And people coming at you, telling you what to think, and so that's a lot of like religious trauma that maybe you've had in your family and your culture. That's also like religious trauma that we have culturally. We have cultural religious trauma. But do we have a soul? Is there a God?
Yeah.
What is the meaning of life? Yeah. These are questions that can still be excavated if you put all that bullshit aside.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm down. I'm just worried that when you go to spiritualism, then people start using it as an excuse to justify all this other stuff, But
I think that's a really good concern.
Yeah,
I think that's a very valid concern.
And I don't know. I'm at a place where you're in a place of life where I feel I don't know you that well, but I feel
calling me old.
Advanced stage of life where you're like in every time I hear you talk now about your personal stuff, you're always in a good place. You kind of with Neil Brennan, you're like, I could go and farm potatoes.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're in a place where you're also trying to share that happiness. Mm-hmm. You want other people to have that too.
Okay.
Right. And I'm in a place where I'm trying to just be happy myself yet. So I don't need to try to get other people on, I don't want to tell people I have the answers to this. And I guess that's why I kind of avoid the spirituality talk. Because I'm with you, by the way. I feel it. I feel sometimes in, that there's stuff in the universe where it happened and I'm very grateful for it, a lot of gratitude. But I don't need to convince other people for it, whereas I feel like you're in a place where you're trying to share it. This positivity.
Right. I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything. I just think that these conversations are valuable because they can help our lives individually and they can help our lives collectively. So I'm just trying to I'm a conversation starter. I'm the guy at the party. I'm the guy at the party saying like, so do you believe in God? Hey.
The worst guy at the party.
The worst guy at the party. Everyone runs in the other direction.
Yeah. This episode of Soul Boom is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. And guess what? They even host our beautiful website, soulboom.com. And when we were creating that gorgeous website, the suite of visual design effect tools were absolutely invaluable. They're built in, they're ready to go on any Squarespace website. Their flexible payment options make checkout seamless for your customers. You can accept credit cards, PayPal, Apple Pay, etc. And let's not forget about videos. Showcase your best videos by easily uploading to libraries with the push of a button. And if you want to monetize, Squarespace lets you add a paywall so you can sell access to your exclusive content. So if you're ready to take your online presence to the next level, head to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/soulboom to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain using that code SOULBOOM.
Here's another thing that's weird about Universe. So you sent me a message, very nice in LA. You sent me a message about you just sent the top of your head. Sometimes Rainn will just send me the top of his head and whatever's behind him. And you sent me that out of nowhere. We won't even really talk about anything. You sent it to me. And when I received that message, I was in Chelsea, right where you told me you used to live.
Yeah.
And I look up. So I'm in the spot where we were kind of physically connected. I look up. Some woman walks past wearing a Dwight Schrute t-shirt. Some office t-shirt. Is you on
You
it.
got the message of me in that spot.
Yeah.
You were in that spot, looked at the message, and a woman wearing a Dwight t-shirt walked by. Yeah.
The universe is weird. Is that spirituality? I don't know. What does that tell us about?
A lot of people think that these kind of little signs, like those dreams that you're talking about with your dad, like these, feelings, synchronicities is part are some kind of keys or some kind of pathway to some kind of reality that's greater than the mere material or
Sure.
So
maybe. Yeah. All I know
it's
is
not
that
really it's not my bag, but a lot of people.
It made me feel
way.
very happy. It made me feel very happy. So I thought that was really cool.
Great. I'm gonna keep sending you weird pictures of half my face and various landmarks.
The odds of that happening. The odds of that happening.
Yeah.
I'll give you something more. Can I say something more spiritual? A little bit. I get offered a movie role in Hawaii again. I keep getting connected to Hawaii, which is cool. Part of it's because I'm Asian. There's a coincidence.
Sure.
Anyway, so I turned down the role because I'm filming my pilot. And I really wanted this role, but I couldn't do it just for scheduling. I filmed my pilot. Last day of filming my pilot, I get a phone call from movie production. They're like, hey, something happened to the actor. Can you come and film this weekend? And it's the same role, but and I'm like, yeah, of course, I'd love to do that. So I go to Hawaii, and my friend Chris Lee in Hawaii, he's opening a new University of Hawaii center for students to come and learn multimedia and film, TV, and computer like media.
Yeah,
basically preparing them for the future of show business. And his opening is in West Oahu, and it's at 11 a.m. And he says, can you come? It would be great if you could just come to the grand opening. And I'm like, well, I'm filming. I'm not sure. I look at the schedule. I'm filming on that day at 2 p.m. in West Oahu, so I could make it. So I go there. I'm at the opening of the thing, just in the back, just watching them open. The governor of Hawaii comes and he's like, hey, thank you everyone for coming. This facility was a dream in our heads 3 years ago, and we made it happen. Hawaii has always been a place where people film movies, but the local Hawaii kids and the locals, if they wanted to learn the film industry, they had to leave Hawaii to learn it. And now they don't have to anymore because we have this state-of-the-art facility. And I want to welcome everyone here. When he says, I want to welcome everyone here, the pneumatic doors just open. It's not electric. They are sealed doors that just blow open from the wind behind him. He doesn't even see it. He's just talking. I want to welcome everyone.
He says, I want to welcome everyone, and go.
The doors open. Everyone watching this is like this, like, whoa. And then he doesn't even know that happened. Governor finishes his speech shortly after, gets off. A Hawaiian priest comes on, and he goes, well, everybody, I think the mana is very strong here. I think we all saw the spirits seem to really like what we're doing here. I think the ancestors appreciate it. When he said, Governor, welcome to this, the doors just open with the wind. Literally, the wind blew these heavy pneumatic doors, not electric doors, open. And my point was,
were the doors electric?
No, they weren't. They were the
I was kidding.
Yeah. and my point to all this long backstory was that for me to attend that, I had to get offered a movie in Hawaii. Some guy had to drop out. I had to get hired at the last moment. I had to be there. I had to have a free date in the schedule. I was filming in the same area. My call time was 2 p.m. The thing was, to all that to happen for me to sit there and watch that. And afterwards, I'm telling everybody, like, hey, there were like 8 cameras focused on this event. Can someone please get me the footage? I want to share this because this is pretty crazy in Hawaii. This is the kind of stuff that happens here. No one has footage. There was 8 cameras pointed at this goddamn door. No one has footage about what happened. It was just there for us. It was just us there in the moment. We saw it.
That's wacky.
We know what it means. And that stuff like that, I can't really explain. It made me feel good. It made me feel like I was, part of something that was good. That people before me probably would be like, okay, you guys are doing a good thing here.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, the vibes were good. So I did want to ask you about, dude, you were in like Galaxy Quest.
Yeah.
Which is like an all-time great.
One of the all-time great comedies. That was my very first movie. My very first movie.
And in some ways, Galaxy Quest underrated. In my opinion, as a comedy movie, when I watch it again, it holds up, super funny.
Perfect film, yeah.
Perfect.
The acting's insane.
I
that
know.
ensemble is crazy.
Yeah, including yourself.
Sam Rockwell, and I just had a small part. Yeah. I had a bigger part, but they had to cut it down because I had done this TV pilot and I was on the contract stuff. But anyways, it was super. And my main scene was cut out. You can find it on YouTube. My cut scene that I had with Tony Shalhoub.
Right.
I had a really funny, so it was my very first movie. Yeah. And I'm doing this scene with Tony Shalhoub. Yeah. And I had all this techno jargon.
Yes.
And where he says, how does the how does this engine work? And I'm like, well, the bivalve catheter within the context of the erythium sphere has a blah, blah, blah. And how do you think the blah, 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 blah? And the joke was that it's this, and like I looked over it and I thought I knew it. And I went over it in my car on my way there. And then we had a rehearsal and I was like, holy shit, I can't remember this techno jargon. I had never had to memorize techno jargon before.
Right.
On the set, I kept going up. I kept forgetting my line. It's my first day on a set. Alan Rickman, Sigourney Weaver, Tim Allen, Sam Rockwell, Tony Shalhoub, like all of this, like who's who stars. Yeah. And I can't remember my fucking line. And I keep like, within the bivalve of the cat, but sorry, what is it? And it was so humiliating. We're in those silver suits. Yeah. And I was sweating so much. I remember moisture building up at the bottom of my suit in my feet. And if you look at the deleted scene, you can kind of see the panic in my face as I'm trying to remember the techno jargon line.
But it was okay, right? Was it worse in your head than, you know what I mean? Like in hindsight, or?
It was worse in my head than it was in reality. And everyone who does
techno
monologues, whether it's playing a lawyer and you have to say, Your Honor, within the Henderson versus Logan section 25B, like anytime you have to do that, it's super, because there's no way to get those lines except to drill them.
Yes.
So, but I was really humiliated, but it was still a really amazing experience. That was my first, and then
but the director wasn't giving you shit, right? Not everyone was like, oh, cool.
No,
so it's worse in your own mind.
People got it. Yeah, right. People got it.
And I wanted to ask you about that because your comedic timing's like, all time great, but you're like classically trained masters of fine arts.
Whose podcast is this?
This is why I agreed to do it, just to get to speak to you and to get.
Oh, stop it!
Yeah,
I went to acting school. I just loved theater. I loved making theater. Yeah. Part of it is like, there is a kind of like left wing, right wing about like stand up comedy can be like right wing because it's like every man for himself. It's individualistic and like what you make of yourself. Yes, But theater is all about like we're together and we're the theater and we're diverse and we're gay and we're black and we're all different stripes and we're wonderful and we're singing and we're telling stories. And I just loved being a part of that. So I just wanted to be a part of that. Yes. But I did a lot of comedy in theater. I did clowning and I would always do a lot of comedy scenes, and I obviously had a real affinity. Improvisation I did and stuff like that.
So it sounds like you were always a comedian who happened to be who got the classical training.
There's many times I was I could have gone down the improvisation route
I can see that.
And gone to like a Second City Improv. Yeah. And then I was like, no, I'd rather do theater.
This answers a lot. This answers a lot for me because I was sometimes I feel like there's funny bones that you just gotta have, like no matter how great an actor you are, trained and accomplished actors, if they don't have the funny bones inside, it's kind of like,
So I believe that my funny bones came from the fact that I was such a fucking misfit as a kid. I never fit in. Me and my friend John Valadez were best friends. I was like 6 foot tall when I was in 7th grade, and he's like 5'1" and Latino. But we loved comedy, and we would watch Monty Python, and we watched Saturday Night Live. We'd watch all the sitcoms.
Steve Martin, you would
Steve Martin. Loved. I could every album of Steve Martin's from top to end. And so we would walk home from school, and we would take an hour, 2 hours, and we would just be doing comedy routines all the time. Then we would go play Dungeons and Dragons with friends, and we'd all be just watching comedy and doing comedy routines. And Richard Pryor, we'd be listening to Bill Cosby albums and, George Carlin albums. And so this kind of weird little petri dish of these little misfits that didn't fit in anywhere. And we really had this kind of like inner tortured comedy nerd going on. So I really feel like maybe there's a genetic component, but for me, it really was this kind of social experiment where, you take that and then you put them in theater school and they're able to just, they don't care what they look like and maybe funny voices.
You're the result of this experiment.
Yeah.
You are the result.
I am the result of this weird suburban Seattle social experiment. You have a quote that says, podcasts are the deaths of civilization. Podcasts are the death of civilization. We've sat here for the last hour and a half. What's going on?
Podcasts without production value are the death of civilization. When you got cameras
that's not what you meant.
Okay, I amend the comment when it's the freaking.
No, come on. You keep looking at the camera too.
I know. I'm too used to.
Who is that?
I'm too used to going down the barrel. What's the teleprompter?
Who is that? But why? Why do you hate podcasts?
I think just
you even told me on the text. I was like, will you do my podcast? You're like, I hate podcasts. Like, but you're like, but yes, I will.
Yeah,
because
for
it's
you.
Yeah,
I will do podcasts if it's with someone more famous than me. That's
crazy.
No,
you're way more famous than me anyway.
No, that's totally not true.
I'm on more coffee mugs at Target than you are, but. You're more famous than me.
That is
You're
completely not true.
You're specials.
Dude, nobody cares about stuff. You are the legendary. You brought so much happiness to so many people. All my friends love it. They can't believe I'm doing this. All the Australian law school friends are like, why you? I studied hard in law school. How come you get to meet?
Oh, that's hysterical.
Dwight Schrute. But I just didn't like that vibe of people who just think that that's content now. This is different, okay? Because you're accomplished and artist.
You're not allowed to look at this camera again.
You're an accomplished actor. You have a point. You prepared. We have a focus here. We're talking about, we're trying to.
There are a lot of stand-up comics that will just get people in a room and talk for 3 hours.
Yeah.
But people love it. And it'll get millions of views and they're just jibber jabbering about, what their farts sound like.
Sure. Yeah. And I just don't, I just don't appreciate it. I just think it's like, it just feels lazy compared to the effort that we put into crafts. That's my perspective on it. And I didn't move to America to do podcasts. I moved to America to meet my comedy heroes, to do stand-up comedy, to 50 people in a room for $20.
You're still looking at the camera. What is...
Yeah, it's just 9 years of 9 years of training of.
Is that a Daily Show thing?
Yeah, you just go down the yeah. I just feel like I'm no one special to who cares about my backstory. I'm only as valuable as the next joke I can do on stage. If it's bad, people are gonna.
That's interesting.
That's how
there might need to be some therapeutic unpacking of that way of thinking.
Yeah.
Because I'm just fascinated by the mind that can come up with some of your comedy sequences. Because some of your
that's very good.
And I think you're a fantastic actor, but some of the stuff that you come up with, I'm just like, how does a mind do that? I'm absolutely in awe. But I want to know the story behind the story.
Oh yeah, that's very kind of you, and I do appreciate it. But I just
there's not many Malaysians who get an Australian law degree and then have Netflix specials.
No, yeah. I'm always like, who cares about me? Just here's the product, here's the jokes. Just,
We care about you. America cares about you.
Thank you.
The world cares about you, Ronny Chieng.
Well, now you're doing it to the camera.
Thanks for coming on Soul Boom, Ronny.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me, Rainn. Yeah, you're the best. Thanks so much.
The Soul Boom Podcast. Subscribe now on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever else you get your stupid podcasts.